The last Ragnar legendary event is coming up soon, and today we'll make sure that you don't miss out on the Wolf Lord of the Blackmanes by deep diving into the preparation needed. Planning for a legendary event always begins about a month before they actually start, and with the last Ragnar legendary event coming up soon, we should already be turning our attention to making sure that we open this amazing character. Ragnar came in 3rd place in my Spring Edition Top 10 Imperials and Tacticus video, and as they are a crucial part of the tournament arena and guild raids, it's definitely someone you'll want to be pushing as far as you can. So let's have a look and see how we do that. My strategy for these is always very similar every month. I will sit down with my current roster, my Google Planner sheet, and I'll just play around with it, looking to see how I can bring my team to the next level. And what does next level mean? Well, it depends on really where you are right now in the game. To open a legendary event character, realistically you're going to need at least 6 to 10 Gold 1 characters, and of course more the better. So the first level to reach is getting some of the best characters in the game leveled up to Gold 1. Then after that, I'm at the next stage where I'm starting to bring a few of my characters up to Gold 2 so that I can just add one more star to my legendary characters. Most of the rest of the teams have Gold 1 characters in them, so it's really about bringing them up to that next level. Finally, the top players are all working to complete every single battle in a legendary event, but I think that requires quite a few high-level characters at present. So let's stick with looking at what characters are useful to level for the event, and then you can decide yourself where you want to take them. So let's begin with the alpha track. We can't take any Xenos characters because we're fighting against the orcs. The battles here are as follows: Resilient for 105 points, Ranged for 65 points, Max 3 hits for 40 points, Bolter for 95 points, and Melee for 70 points. And there are a bunch of different strategies here, but firstly, we're always going to want to be looking for the most efficient team to use for one token. The idea being that you can get as many points as possible with the least number of tokens used. And the first team I would be looking at can gather a whopping 200 points from the following battles: Ranged, Max 3 hits, and Bolter battles. And for this, you need to pick 5 from the following 8 characters. It's Abaddon, Azrael, Brother Butchered, Certus, Commissar Yarrick, High Marshal Helbrecht, Morven Val, and Rosita. And if I had to narrow that list down, I'd probably be taking Abaddon, Azrael, Brother Butchered, Commissar Yarrick, and Morven Val. Although, as a legendary character, you might need to fill in with Certus here. Of course, it depends on which characters you have, but if you have something like this available, then that's a pretty tanky team, and if you have them decently leveled, they'll be able to push on quite a bit. For the second team, I would be looking to push through the other 2 battles, Resilient and Melee. These come in together at 175 points, and there is a very good team here to take care of these if you have Nauseous Rotbone. His shards are currently available to purchase in the Guild War shop, and I can't recommend him highly enough. He will carry you through these 2 battles if you have him at a decent level, but even if you don't have Nauseous Rotbone, you can still collect a serious amount of points. The full options are 5 from the following 7: Aryak, Azkor, Corodius, Macer, Maladis, Nauseous Rotbone, and Pistillion. And if I was going to be cutting this down to 5 personally, I would drop Aryak and stick with the Chaos characters. For the rest, Maladis is great for clearing out multiple characters with one swing. Azkor has a terrifying trait which lets him take 30% less damage from enemies, and he's a demon which gives him a chance to block a chunk more damage, and then his passive gives him and others around him more damage. He might actually be my next character to really level up for legendary events due to all of these amazing abilities. Corodius spawns in a bunch of Poxwalkers, and if they kill anything, they also become Poxwalkers, which can make this map pretty easy. Then I would just pick whichever I had leveled the most from Macer or Pistillion. Both are pretty crap here honestly, but you need some meat shields in your team. Finally, in the alpha track, there's one last note for you. Isabella is available, and that means the Isabella Battle Ball can be used to hopefully push you all the way to stage 12. Unfortunately, there isn't a super clean team to build her with using all of her battle buddies, but the best characters to use with her are Aryak, Bellator, Butchered, and Marnius Calgar. If you have them with at least 300 armor, and Isabella at Gold 1, you can push nearly all the way to stage 12, and then with a bit of leveling in them, you definitely can. However, they're a bit spread out between the last 3 battles, Max 3 hits, Bolter, and and melee, and you can't use them all together in 2 or 3 of the battles. So once you've pushed through as far as you can in the track, I would pick one of the lanes like Bolter, which gives you 90 points, and just drive as far as you can with it. Then move on to the other tracks to make sure you maximize your token usage. If we summarize this track, it'll look a little bit like this. So let's move on to the beta track. We can't take any chaos because we're fighting against the Thousand Suns. The battles are as follows. Min 3 hits gives us 60 points, physical gives us 90 points, power gives us 90 points, lion gives us 100 points, and no summons gives us 35 points. And this is quite an annoying track. The 3 middle battles, physical, power, and flying, just do not play very well together. There isn't a single full team that you can use, so the most efficient is actually a tie on 185 points. You either pick physical, min 3 hits and no summons, or you pick power, min 3 hits and no summons. Flying only misses out also from being available because you can't really play Celestine and not spawn in our summons. So if we go with the physical route and look at the physical, min 3 hits and no summons battles, then it's Gibbous Scraps, Cut Skoden, Snapareka, Tiark and Vindicta. Theoretically you could pick Snotflogga, but you can't attack with him in a position where he would spawn a grot, so I don't find it very useful there. It's an okay team with a lot of fire damage from Vindicta. Gibbous Scraps can raise everyone's armor. Tiark has a terrifying trait, and that means he takes 30% less damage from melee, and Snapareka can be healed by Gibbous Scraps. So there are some synergies here, and it might be able to push you to stage 6 quite easily. If we look at the power, min 3 hits and no summons battles, then there's a few more choices available here. We can pick 5 from the following 8 characters: Aryak, Asmodee, On-Shi, Brother Butchered, High Marshal Helbrecht, Moggan Ra, Morven Val, and Ulf. And if I had to narrow that list down, we've already talked today in the alpha track about taking Aryak, Brother Butchered, Helbrecht, maybe Morven Val. But with 2 of them being legendary characters, I would probably swap On-Shi in here for one of them. And Moggan Ra and Asmodee that have that terrifying trait again, reducing incoming melee damage by 30%. So again, it's an okay team, definitely tanky, and able to push through a lot. On retrospect, I would probably go with this latter option, as I have the most characters level for it, and it is the most tanky option, but you'll have to look for it yourself. If you do go for the latter option, then you'll need to do the physical and flying battles. Again, you'll have a lot of different options that'll really depend on who you have leveled, but a couple of strong teams are as follows. For the physical battle, Calandis, Makotep, Tangida, Tyrant Guard, and Snotflogga. And this uses a lot of really powerful legendary event characters, with Snotflogga at the front of Tyrant Guard, Makotep keeping Tangida healed up, pumping out Skitari, and then Calandis sniping from the back. You have a great chance to push super deep into this battle. For the flying battle, take something like Actis, Aleph Null, Bellator, Celestine or Winged Prime, and Revas. And the idea here is that you flood the board with spawns to take down as many of the early enemies as possible, but then you really finish the battle with Actis, Aleph Null, and Revas defending and healing each other all the way through to the end. The last team to mention is again the Isabella Battle Ball. She appears in the min 3 hits and no summons battles, and although that's only 95 points, it does mean that you'll be able to push really far with her, especially as she's joined by Aryak, Bellator, and Brother Butchered. Then you can just throw in someone you've got highly leveled and drive on to a bunch more points. If we summarize this track, it'll look a little bit like this. Moving to the Gamma track sees a ban on Imperials because you're fighting against Imperials. The battles are Piercing for 105 points, Melee for 85 points, No Physical for 45 points, Power for 105 points, and No Black Legion for 35 points. The most efficient teams here can gather 185 points coming from the No Physical, Power, and No Black Legion battles, and it's again a very strong team that can do this. You can pick 5 from the following 6 characters: On-Shi, Maladis, Moggan Ra, Nauseous Rotbone, Toth, and Typhus. And that is a really great team in many ways. Rotbone, Maladis, and Typhus being the best Death Guard fighting together, all with resilience. Toth has his innate healing to keep him alive as long as possible, and Morgan Ra has Terrifying to reduce incoming damage, while the Onshi passive will give extra defense every third round. With the remaining piercing and melee battles, you can use one token to complete the early levels here by using the following 4 characters: Athana, Arkan Worldclaimer, Jane Zar, and Tyrant Guard. Now obviously with it only being a 4-man lineup, you're not going to get super far with him, unless they're seriously over leveled, but you can definitely push a little bit in and just save a few tokens. Once you finally stop being able to push forwards with these 4, you'll have to drop to doing these battles one at a time. For the piercing battle, you need to pick 5 from the following 8: Abaddon, Athana, Kalandis, Eldrion, Harkin, Janezar, Shosil, and Tyrant Guard. And the best team here sees Tyrant Guard in the middle of a team. Janezar maybe being the tank with her Terrifying trait, and that could be backed up with Abaddon as another tank. Then Kalandis for overwatching damage, and Shosil for more damage and spawning other targets in. For the melee battle, there are a ton of options available. I won't list them all, but my favourite team here is something around the following: Aleph Null, Maladis, Nauseous Rodbone, Tyrant Guard, and Jane Zar, which again makes an absolutely solid team that'll take you very far. If we summarise this track, it'll look a little bit like this. And so, as always, that is an overwhelming amount of data. Let's summarize it into a good plan for you to focus on that will allow you to maximize your points and either unlock Ragnar or push him up to a very high level. This still depends on your level, and you'll probably need 6 or 7 of these at Gold 1 level, as well as having Isabella and Rotbone, but don't despair if you don't, because every upgrade you put into these characters will be useful in the future, and it will move you one step closer to opening all the future legendary event characters. Firstly, I always start with the healers relevant to the event. This time round, it's Isabella and Nauseous Rodbone. Next, I work on the tanks, which is Tyrant Guard, Maladis, and then at least 2 of the Isabella Battle Ball: Aryak, Bellator, Brother Butchered, and Marneus Calgar. Probably the first 3 being the most important this time round. Next, I would then work on the characters that gain the most points in this event and are just generally really relevant in legendary events. And this time round, it's Abaddon and Onshi. And finally, I would pick some of the following characters to push up a little bit. All of these are in the top 20 of legendary events scoring currently, and they do really well in this event: Toth, Morgan Ra, Shosil, and Kalandis. And so that's a lot of characters to focus on, and maybe even that last list is still too overwhelming for you. If that's the case, just pick 3 or 4 of those characters that you think you'd like to play and get them leveled to Gold 1. All the best with the event, and let me know if it helps you get Ragnar when it comes around.